So dreams, what is a dream? A dream is like pure subconscious communication, right? So let's break down a dream. Like what's usually in people's dreams? Who dreams visually, at least in part? Okay, so we say there's visual images in dreams. Who has stories in their dreams? But usually like fragmented stories, right? So it's not necessarily even logical stories. It's like nonsense stories all stacked one back on top of the other for a long time. Is that about right? Who has some language in their dreams? Is it a lot of language or a little bit?
A lot.
Okay, so we have a
real, like you wake up and you're like, I have to like call and make sure that didn't happen.
that didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
How many of you don't really have much language, or it's really primitive if it shows up, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, you don't? Okay. So it depends on the person. Some people are more verbal, some people are less verbal.
How often do people even remember their dreams?
Well, dreams are state dependent, and so
Depends on when you wake up, right?
it depends on when you wake up and if you're paying attention to them or not. But all of us, if you're human and you're alive, you dream.
So I just ignore them?
Well, here,
Block them out?
well,
Dream every night.
or you develop amnesia for them. So there's a theory called state-dependent learning theory. I won't go deep into it. And who's heard me talk about this before? Raise your hand, okay? One of you? Okay, I'll talk about state-dependent learning theory here for a second. State-dependent learning theory was first postulated by a guy named Jay Haley, psychiatrist back in the 70s. I think he's either still alive or just passed away, but he's getting old, getting pretty old if he's still alive. But he noticed that his clients tended to remember information about the same way that they learned it. So for example, if you're in an exam, how many of you get a little bit of exam fear? Raise your hand. And your mind goes blank when you go into the exam. Raise your hand high so people can see, okay? So it's pretty normal to have happen. Here's why. When you study the information, you're studying it in a state of calm. When you go to recall it, you're in a state of panic or fear. You're in a different state, so your recall drops because you're accessing a different part of the neural network. Neural network meaning part of your brain pathways. Does that make sense? So one of the reasons why people forget their dreams is because when you're dreaming, you're in an altered state. Everybody pretty much agree with that? Okay, every once in a while get a scientist who disagrees that dreaming's an altered state. Not very often. They're in a minority, even among scientists, right? But you get enough scientists in a room, you have 15 scientists, you have 16 opinions, right? It's a true story, right? You get 15 hypnotists in a room, you'll get 17 opinions about what hypnosis is, right? And that's part of the nature of the way things work. Even though we'll all agree on some things, we disagree on other things. So sleep is an altered state. You're pretty rested and relaxed. Then you come up, right? The mechanical rooster starts to crow at you a little bit, and you boink awake, right? And you are now in a state of what we call arousal, which means you're up, and you're not in a state of rest, relax, and so your dreams immediately drop out of your head. They're stored in a different part of the neural network, unless you wake up in the same state that you're in or you're thinking about it right away. How many of you have a hard time recalling your dreams? Okay, how many of you remember pretty much everything you dream? Okay, a few of you. So it's different for different people. But that's state-dependent learning theory, and that's basically how that,
It would be something that
how
you
that
could
works.
block. Like I had a lot of nightmares before, and then I suddenly don't do dreams at all. And I think it was just like, no, I'm not doing that.
You don't remember them, you do them. So I promise you can't be sane and an adult and not dream. When they, in research, when they start depriving people of their dream sleep, over like 72 hours, people will start to hallucinate.
So is it like possible to block them? Like
You're
train
blocking,
yourself to block them?
yeah, you've developed a skill in blocking recall of dreams, and you can train recall of dreams as well. Yep, absolutely.